Alright, so this video is going to be divided into two sections. The first section will cover the different lightsaber colors and their meaning, and the second section will focus on the different types of lightsabers there are. Without further ado, let's begin. Before we get into the colors and types of sabers there are, let's first cover how lightsabers are actually powered. Lightsabers use kyber crystals that are protected by a chassis built into the hilt, and these crystals could usually be found on the planet Ilum, a desolate snow planet in the unknown regions of the galaxy. Starting off with arguably the most common color, blue lightsabers typically indicate a brave and virtuous Jedi who is true to themselves and everyone around them. Those who wielded this color displayed care and passion when it came to training with their saber and would dedicate their time to helping others more often than most. Notable users who chose this color include Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Master of Defense, who would put anyone before himself, Anakin Skywalker, one of the most skilled duelists and pilots, who cared deeply for his friends and those he saved across the galaxy, Plo Koon, who much like Kenobi, put his moral beliefs before anything, and Kanan Jarrus, who would sacrifice himself for the safety of the innocent and those he considered family, as showcased in Season 4 of Rebels. Next up we have the color green. Those who wielded this color were generally more tranquil and less battle-thirsty, and were, in most cases, thought to be the wisest of the Jedi. Jedi Grandmaster Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn are shining examples of what I'm referring to. Moving on to the yellow lightsabers, which in canon were only used by the Jedi Temple Guards and were considered sacred. Furthermore, the color represented their vigilance, and the sabers were almost always double-bladed. Other than the guards, Rey is the only other Jedi ever seen with one. This isn't the only rare color in canon, however, as there is one even more uncommon than yellow, and perhaps the most seldom used color in the galaxy, the orange lightsaber. As a matter of fact, there is currently no known canon user of this color, and it is only seen in Jedi Fallen Order. That said, some believe the orange lightsaber is indicative of immense knowledge and power, but its true meaning isn't entirely apparent. Anyhow, moving forward, we have another atypical color of lightsaber, that being, of course, the purple lightsaber, occasionally referred to as an amethyst blade. Mace Windu and Darth Revan are the most well-known users of this color, and purple in particular usually acts as a symbol of one's balance with both the light and the dark side of the Force. On this topic, it's worth mentioning that purple is created when red and blue are combined, once again a symbol of balance. The aforementioned users of this color are extremely skilled in both lightsaber combat and with the Force, which may suggest that this color is reserved for those who have mastered the Force in all aspects. The next color is the color of the Sith, the color of blood and crimson. This, as you already know, is the red lightsaber. This color is undeniably and notoriously emblematic of the dark side, and usually wielded by those with the title of Darth, although there have been special occasions where fallen Jedi, assassins, and etc. wielded a red blade as well, but the color was usually utilized by true lords of the Sith. As such, in order to obtain a red lightsaber, one must hone their hatred and anger to make their kyber crystal bleed, in other words, corrupting it, creating the scarlet color we all know so well. Interestingly enough, there is yet another rarely seen color of lightsaber, and that is the color white. Contrary to the red lightsabers the Sith used, white lightsabers were constructed using purified kyber crystals and were only wielded by those who mastered their emotions and possessed purely good intentions. Ahsoka Tano creates her renowned white sabers using the bleeding kyber crystals of an Inquisitor and purifying them after unintentionally killing him. The last color in the Star Wars universe is a special case and may even be considered both a different color and a type of lightsaber, so I'll use this as a point to transition into the next phase of the video where I cover the different types of sabers. Anyhow, this lightsaber I'm making reference to, as many of you have probably figured out, is the dark saber. This semi-religious weapon was, for the most part, wielded by Mandalorians and served as a method of unifying every house on Mandalore. Created by Tar Vizsla, the first and only Mandalorian Jedi, the saber was housed in the Jedi Temple after his passing, only to be stolen by Mandalorians later on. The first owner we see with it since it was in Tar's possession is Pre Vizsla, a direct descendant of Tar and ruler of the Death Watch. However, Pre Vizsla is killed in ritual combat per tradition by Darth Maul, and he becomes its new owner. This is, however, until it is stolen by Sabine Wren and later given to Bo-Katan Kryze. It is unknown how Bo-Katan loses it, but years after it being given to her, we see it in the possession of Moff Gideon of the ISB in the year 9 ABY. Its current owner in the Star Wars timeline is the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, after he defeats Moff Gideon in combat. Now onto the types of lightsabers, not including the basic single-bladed saber one would usually encounter in the galaxy when thousands of Jedi protected it. The first I'll cover is insanely popular amongst fans and was initially introduced in A Phantom Menace, wielded by Darth Maul. This, as many likely expected to be mentioned first, is the double-bladed lightsaber. This saber could be used to great effect if the user dueled their opponent in an open area and could be used well with the aggressive and overwhelming forms of Ataru and Juyo. On the same note, users could either use the dual-bladed lightsaber with heavy striking, like Savage Opress, or take a more acrobatic approach, such as Maul before he lost his legs of course. This next one, while technically falling under the category of basic lightsabers in many cases, is the dual-phase lightsaber. With the use of 2 kyber crystals, this saber essentially allowed the user to shorten their blade or make it longer, depending on what they thought was best for them in any particular scenario. The most notable duelist to utilize this was Darth Vader, who caught many of his adversaries off guard in the middle of combat. Moving on, we have the curved hilt lightsaber, famously used by Count Dooku. A curved hilt allowed the user to strike with exceptional precision and was typically used by those who focused more on dueling, such as practitioners of Form 2, also known as Makashi. Another lightsaber that may assist a user when dueling is the crossguard saber. In this case, those who wielded this lightsaber, much like Kylo Ren, integrated the use of 3 blades, which could prove useful in certain situations. In addition, this design went well with the use of a cracked kyber crystal. This crystal would make the hilt emit an unstable blade with a crackling effect, and the utilization of the crossguard configuration allowed for the 2 shorter side blades acting as the crossguard to vent the excess power of the crystal. Next is the Shoto lightsaber, which is, in essence, a lightsaber with a shorter blade that was typically used by Jedi with a more aggressive form of fighting. As many of you may know, Ahsoka used a Shoto blade as one of her 2 lightsabers during her years as a Padawan in the midst of the Clone Wars. Her usage of the Shoto blade reflected her master's guidance and aggressive style of combat. There is also a different alteration of the Shoto called the Guard Shoto, which looks like a baton. The next lightsaber variation is the Proto Saber, which, unlike any other saber, features 2 metal prongs that generate a blade of energy from an exposed kyber crystal. These lightsabers are from a bygone era and consist of an elegant and intricate design, similar to no other. Another type of lightsaber is the lightsaber pike, typically wielded by the Jedi Temple Guards. In the case of the Temple Guards, these sabers were double-bladed and produced 2 yellow blades that were shorter than the average dual-bladed lightsaber. However, they could also be composed of a single blade that was shorter than a standard single-bladed saber. Perhaps one of the most unique designs, the next type of lightsaber is the lightsaber blaster hybrid used by Ezra Bridger. This lightsaber acts as a normal one, with the exception of a blaster built into the side of it that utilizes the power from the kyber crystal to generate orbs of energy that can be shot at enemies. One lightsaber that could rival Ezra's invention in regards to being distinct is the sickle-bladed lightsaber. The sickle-bladed lightsaber was a standard lightsaber, but instead of the hilt being curved, the actual blade itself was. Darth Noctis is the only known user of this variation, with it being introduced in the recent Shadow of the Sith novel. Next up is the flicker phase blade, a simple lightsaber altered to toggle at arbitrary points during a duel. This made it more difficult for the user to wield it, however it acted as an obstacle for the opponent due to them not being able to block or parry at certain points. As a result, these sabers were viewed as disgraceful and unfair, therefore not being used regularly. The light whip is yet another model of lightsaber and was chiefly used during the Sith Wars, being primarily linked to the Night Sisters of Dathomir. However, that being said, the Jedi also wielded them on occasion to battle the forbidden techniques of the Sith. These sabers were highly flexible, although they lacked the cutting power of an average lightsaber. Finally, the last lightsaber of note is the light spear, brandished during the era of the High Republic by the Sith. There isn't much to cover here, as they are only mentioned in the Light of the Jedi novel, and they weren't described thoroughly, but I'm assuming they'll have a more developed backstory and canon in the future. Anyhow, that's every lightsaber color and type explained, so I hope you all enjoyed. Now that I've covered every lightsaber combat form, color, and type, hopefully you have a better understanding of lightsabers and the Star Wars universe in general than you did before. Alright, that's it from me. Have a great day. See ya.